Philosophy can be translated as love of knowledge. Whether or not a view is considered dangerous or not is irrelevant to the truth claims made in philosophy. Well, John Leslie's first point here, that these kinds of philosophical views can lead to a lessening of efforts in keeping the human race going, um, he's not actually articulating why he sees that as a bad thing. He just states it from the perspective of an unquestioned assumption. Um, so there's no elaboration or analysis there, which is very telling. And his second point, that it could these kinds of views could provide risks um, during, for example, nuclear brinkmanship. Um, it's it's irrelevant to the argument that it wouldn't be a bad thing if the human race became extinct. Yes, I agree. Many people have had unpleasant suffering episodes in their lives that they may feel glad about because they feel they've benefited from it in some kind of instrumental way that has manifested itself later on in their lives. But I think if the majority of these people, if they could have procured these benefits without having to have experienced the suffering that led to those benefits, I think most people would choose to procure those benefits without going through the discomfort and unpleasant times in their lives. And how many people have been to the moon? About 12, isn't it? How many people have died in concentration camps in the Second World War? 6 million fell. So, John Leslie states a fact here: beings who forever remained merely possible would never actually exist to complain about anything, let alone about not having been created. This is a fact. He states it. Then he follows up with the conclusion, which is an accurate conclusion. That is the conclusion that it naturally follows that God would have no obligation to create happy people. And then when he's reached the conclusion, validly, using logic, um, he backtracks because he doesn't like what the conclusion says, and then he evokes the name of the devil to justify creating people who will suffer and die in the future. I mean, it's just lame. It's just pathetic. You know, why begrudge the devil? Why begrudge the devil the pleasure of raping people? Why begrudge the devil of stealing from people? Why begrudge the devil of torturing people? We can't begrudge the devil that. So human beings can create people who will suffer and die. Fan-fucking-tastic. Whether human lives are worth living or continuing or not is a completely different issue to whether lives are worth starting. There's a distinct difference between starting a life and continuing a life. Just as there is a difference between starting to give somebody the finger and continuing to give somebody the finger. Because you can't deprive somebody of a happy life if they don't currently exist. I have as much moral obligation to make this cardboard carton conscious as I do to create happy people in the universe. Who is it remarkably good for? Is it remarkably good for the poor smuck, the poor lonely smuck, incarcerated in the hut? I don't think it is. Okay, but it wouldn't benefit the miserable people inside the huts either, so there's no point in creating those people because, as I say, you cannot deprive a non-existent person of happiness. If nothing can be done to help the miserable people in the huts, then there is no duty. He pre-assumes, he presupposes that there is a duty because he asks what our duty would be in a situation where absolutely nothing could be done to help miserable individuals. Just by posing it in those kinds of terms, he's presupposing that we have a duty, and it's then up to us to decide what that duty is. But he doesn't actually argue why we would have a duty to create any more people. Okay, John Leslie, I'll give you a little bit of slack because you do defend the doomsday argument in your book, but your views here are absolutely ridiculous, and I think you're an utter disgrace to the world of philosophy.